I strongly disagree, but the latest sign that the EU could accommodate Britain after Brexit is the Spanish presidency's proposal to weaken a law that would force banks to relocate their operations from London to the continent. I still think it would be the right thing to do. The European Commission has proposed a law now being examined by EU member states and the European Parliament to end what they call excessive exposures to clearing houses outside the EU. The EU has long been annoyed that the London Stock Exchange Group clears the majority of euro-denominated interest rate swaps through its London-based unit LCH. The draft law requires customers in the EU to open an active account for clearing a minimum amount of euro derivatives. This would force the banks to relocate their business from London to the Deutsche Börse's Eurex in Frankfurt. But the Spanish EU Council presidency wants to weaken this. The active account requirement should not be based on quantitative thresholds in a first phase, as they suggested in a document seen by news agencies as a compromise for member states. Due consideration should be given to the novelty of the requirement and the need for market participants to gradually adapt to it added. According to the draft law, the EU securities regulator ESMA would set minimum thresholds for clearing. The Spanish presidency also proposes to limit the extent of increases in thresholds. Leading users of derivatives markets called on the EU last week to abandon plans for mandatory accounts, saying it would harm competitiveness. But the European Parliament is also finalizing its own position before meeting with the EU member states to negotiate a final text. Lawmakers also support active accounts, but with some changes. This emerges from a draft cross-party compromise seen by media agencies for a vote in Parliament. Euro clearing customers should clear at least a portion of euro derivatives via an active account according to the compromise, which does not provide for a minimum number for clearing from the outset. ESMA should develop draft regulatory technical standards to determine how often new positions must be posted to the same account for that account to be considered active, as the Parliament's compromises say. If there is not enough clearing in the EU within 18 months, ESMA should set the proportion of clearing that each customer must clear through their EU accounts according to the compromises. EU clients' access to UK clearing firms such as LCH expires in June 2025, but it is expected to be extended to some extent. Clearing of euro derivatives is the process by which a central counterparty, a CCP, interposes itself between the two counterparties to a derivatives contract, becoming the buyer to every seller and the seller to every buyer. This reduces the counterparty risk for both parties, as the CCP is responsible for ensuring that the contract is fulfilled, even if one of the counterparties defaults. Euro derivatives are derivative contracts that are denominated in euros. They can be traded on exchanges or over the counter, so-called OTC. OTC derivatives are the most common type of euro derivatives, and they are typically cleared through a CCP. The largest CCP for euro derivatives is LCH, which is part of the London Stock Exchange Group, as I said. LCH clears a wide range of euro-denominated derivatives, including interest rate swaps, currency swaps, and equity index futures. The clearing process for euro derivatives typically involves a few steps. The two counterparties to the derivatives contract enter into a clearing agreement with a CCP. The counterparties then trade the contract on an exchange or OTC platform. The CCP matches the two sides of the trade and becomes the buyer to every seller and the seller to every buyer. And the CCP collects margin from both counterparties to cover the risk of default. If one of the counterparties defaults, the CCP will use the margin to settle the contract with the other counterparty. Clearing of euro derivatives has a number of benefits. The CCP is responsible for ensuring that the contract is fulfilled, even if one of the counterparties defaults, as I said. And clearing helps to increase market liquidity by making it easier for counterparties to trade with each other. And clearing makes the derivatives market more transparent by providing a central record of all trades. And clearing helps to reduce systemic risk by reducing the interconnectedness between financial institutions. However, there are also some costs associated with clearing euro derivatives, such as the cost of the margin and the cost of clearing fees. But overall, clearing of euro derivatives is an important part of the global financial system. It helps to reduce risk, improve liquidity, and increase transparency, as I said. And if you want to know what's going on and see another video right now, the next one is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.